A complicated problem right there. President Trump is facing new fallout from his tweets targeting London's mayor over the terror attack, and his other tweets about the travel ban. They could cripple the ban as the case heads to the Supreme Court. The president also trying to move his agenda forward, focusing on infrastructure this week, and he'll talk health care and taxes with congressional leaders today. And we now know he will not use executive privilege to block fired FBI Director James Comey from testifying on Capitol on Thursday. We're going to start there with our chief White House correspondent, Jon Karl. And John, the White House didn't have much of a claim to executive privilege on this, but what else are they doing to counter Comey's testimony on Thursday, which could be very damaging?
Well, if there's a grand strategy here to respond to Comey, it certainly isn't obvious, George. For all the talk of setting up a war room here at the White House that we've heard for weeks now, a war room to respond to the Russia allegations, the Russia investigation, nothing has been set up yet. The last time Comey testified, the president sat down with a close circle of his top aides and watched it on television in the personal dining room right off the Oval Office, where he has installed a big screen TV. I suspect that the response to this will probably come largely through the president's Twitter feed, although I do think you will see tough questions for Comey from Republicans. The biggest one, George, if there was any sense that the investigation was being hindered, why did he not resign?
You talk about the president's tweets. The tweets on the travel ban yesterday creating a lot of consternation among government lawyers, and a lot of Supreme Court experts now say what the president did there could really cripple his attempt to get the travel ban through the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. You are hearing from some of the president's closest allies real concern about his Twitter feed, especially on the legal issues. The most interesting concern comes from George Conway. He is a prominent conservative lawyer, a supporter of the president. He also happens to be Kellyanne Conway's husband, and he went on Twitter yesterday to raise concerns about it, saying, quote, "The point cannot be stressed enough that tweets on legal matters seriously undermine the administration agenda and the president." He says the point needs to be reinforced by those who support the president. And George, he says that virtually every lawyer in the White House counsel's office and political appointees at the Justice Department agree with him. I don't think that that is incorrect.
Real struggle there with the Department of Justice. The president also facing resistance now inside the Foreign Service.
Yeah, this is the second time in 2 days. This is now the latest. The #2 official at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing, a 27-year veteran of the Foreign Service, has resigned. He said in good faith he could not deliver the message to the Chinese that the U.S. had decided to drop out of the Paris Climate Agreement. So he has resigned. This comes after we heard from the acting ambassador in Great Britain praising the mayor of London at the very time that the president was attacking the mayor of London. So something of a revolt in the Foreign Service.
Okay, Jon Karl, thanks very much, Amy.
All right, George, and the president's sons are speaking out exclusively to ABC News. Donald Jr. and Eric Trump sat down with our chief national correspondent, Tom Llamas. We have a preview right now of what Donald Jr. said when Tom asked about those president's tweets, criticizing London's mayor in the wake of Saturday's terrorist attack.
Every time he puts something out there, he gets criticized by the media all day, every day, by everyone else. And then guess what? 2 weeks later, he's proven to be right. It happened again. And we keep appeasing it. And we keep saying, okay, it's going to be great. We're going to hold fast. And we're going to keep calm and carry on. Maybe we have to keep calm and actually do something. And I think that's what he's trying to say, because he's been proven right about it every time. This is a recurring theme. And then we're attacked. But maybe rather than the mayor of London attacking, maybe he should do something about it. Maybe he should do something to fix the problem rather than just sit there and pretend there isn't one.
So you think the mayor of London is at fault for what happened there?
No, that's not what I said. I think it's time for the people there to probably act and do something a lot more proactive than what's going on. And I do think that's something people have to do. We can't just sit there and pretend this is not a problem.
We're going to have much more on our exclusive interview with President Trump's son in our next half hour, George.
Let's talk about this more now with our chief political analyst, Matthew Dowd. And Matt, the subject of the president's tweets, you just saw Donald Jr. defending his father right there. I guess you'd expect a son to do that. But going back to the beginning of this administration, the tweets continuing to inflict self-inflicted wounds on this White House.
Yeah, I want to mention 2 cartoon characters to make a point here. First, the famous comic strip Pogo, who said, "We have met the enemy and he is us." This is somebody that keeps inflicting his wounds on his own self. He's as if he's Wile E. Coyote, and instead of Acme Dynamite, it's Twitter causing all the damage to himself in the course of this. It's as if a guy is pointing a gun at his own leg and threatens you to say, if you don't do what I want, then I'm going to shoot, and then shoots himself in his leg. This has done nothing but make it harder for Donald Trump to accomplish anything he wants to accomplish in his presidency.
The White House team knows it. The president's allies on Capitol Hill know it. You've had several people speak out and say, we know we've got to get this under control. They seem absolutely unable to do it.
Well, I think there's a bit of a fiction, George, that I think has arisen. There's this idea that all these people are giving Donald Trump this great advice and he's ignoring it. There's really no fundamental evidence that that's happening by any of Donald Trump's actions. All along in the campaign, people said he's going to change. Then on inauguration, he was going to change. And then he was going to change after the State of the Union. Donald Trump is fundamentally not going to change. And the only person's advice he takes is his own self. And I don't think that's going to ever change in the course of this presidency.
And how about that argument you hear from some in the White House? Oh, well, you guys are making too much of these tweets. That's just social media. Watch what he does. Instead, I guess the easy counter to that is these are statements from the president. Don't just call them tweets. These are presidential statements.
Well, I have two responses. First, what you say is we should consider every tweet from the hand of the president as a White House announcement. It is about policy. It's about international relations. So therefore, it's the words of the president of the United States, just as if he put out a statement. The second thing is they, throughout the campaign and throughout the presidency, said social media is the way he's going to communicate. So if that's the way he's going to communicate, we should take it seriously.
Matt Dowd, thanks very much.